We touched upon the content of Shemot 4 earlier, in which Moshe maintained that he was not a suitable candidate for the mission to take Bnei Israel out of Egypt on account of his speech impediment, Kvad Peh or Kvad Lashon Anochi. God's response is that Aharon would be Moshe's mouthpiece, and therefore the speech impediment was not an issue. Following the incident of the burning bush, Moshe returns to Midian, and shortly thereafter receives the calling to return to Mitzrayim. Midway he meets Aharon, and they both proceed to Goshen, where they assemble the elders of Bnei Yisrael. We are told in Pasuk Lamed 30 that Vayedaber Aharon et kol hadvarim asher diber Hashem el Moshe. Although Moshe was present at the meeting, Aaron was the one who presented the information. This was the information asher diber Hashem el Moshe that Moshe had received from God. After their meeting with the Ziknei Bnei Israel, the Chumash informs us that both Moshe and Aharon made a presentation to Paro. The fact that they both spoke to Paro does not raise a textual difficulty, in light of the fact that we know that Moshe had a speech impediment, and therefore spoke little, leaving the details of Hashem's shlichut, command, to Aharon. And for this reason, there is no commentary from Rashi to the words Vayomru el Paro. And herein lies the problem. If the distinction was self-evident as of Perek Hey, and on the surface the situation regarding Moshe's speech impediment has not changed, either for the better or for the worse, why then does Rashi feel the need to clarify their respective roles in Perek Zayin Ata Tedaber? Conversely, the very fact that Rashi makes this distinction between Moshe and Aharon in his commentary to Ata Tedaber, it would appear that the distinction is not necessarily so self-evident, which begs the question that this distinction should have been made earlier in Perek Hey, where we first learn of the fact that they both spoke to Paro. Along the same lines as the difficulty with Rashi as to why he didn't present his commentary in Perek 5 rather than in Perek 7, is the actual Chumash narrative, in which Moshe Rabbeinu appears to be taking a second bite of the cherry regarding his speech impediment. The first time that the issue of speech impediment was raised by Moshe was in Perek Dalet, in which he claimed that he was a Kvad Peh or Kvad Lashon Anochi. In response, HaKadosh Baruch Hu informed him that Hu Yiyeh Lecha Lepeh, that his brother Aharon would be his mouthpiece. Moshe's concerns are allayed, and the matter appeared to have been closed. And then again in Perek Vav, he brings up the issue a second time, changing the terminology somewhat by claiming that he is an Aral Sfatayim, which on the surface appears to be pretty much the same kind of an argument that was raised earlier in Perek Daled, for which Moshe received and accepted the response from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So as with the situation with the commentary of Rashi, what has happened between Perek Daled and Perek Vav that would justify raising the issue of the speech impediment a second time, and for which it appears that God's response that Aharon would be his mouthpiece was no longer adequate. In a similar vein, we could analyze the two responses given to Moshe by HaKadosh Baruch. The response to the Kavad Peh or Kavad Lashon was Hu Yihiyeh Lecha Lepeh, while God's response to the Aral Sfatayim is that Aron Achicha Yiyeh Neviyecha. Here, Navi understood as a mouthpiece. Question 2b, we'll look at the difference between the first response, Yihiyeh Lecha Lepeh, and how it differed from Aharon Yiyeh Neviyecha, coming as a response to the concern that Moshe was an Aral Sfatayim.